Chapter 72, Chapter 35. Princess Freya went to the forest in the Academy area. Within the forest is a mansion that blinds in with the surrounding nature. When Princess Freya reached the front of the mansion, she immediately knocked on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Excuse me, but no matter how many times she knocked and shouted, there was still no answer from within the mansion. Is no one inside? Princess Freya intended to leave that place. She felt an uncomfortable feeling that seemed to be telling her not to leave there. She tried to open the door of the mansion. The door was unlocked, and Princess Freya entered the mansion. Excuse me, she shouted there, but still no answer. She searched every corner of the mansion until she finally saw a door at the back. She opened it and felt the fresh air and calming atmosphere. She kept walking through the back area of the mansion and suddenly she stopped. And there she saw two people sitting opposite each other. Princess Freya knows them. One of them was the person she was looking for. What there did leave her dumbfounded. Anger and jealousy and hate. All her negative emotions came out, accompanied by a bloodthirsty aura. What are you two doing? She screamed from deep in her lungs, facing all the emotions she was feeling. Zin and Kalia stopped their spiritism practice when they saw Princess Freya approaching them. When Princess Freya saw the way Kalia was dressed, she was stunned even as a fellow woman. She was fascinated by her. She shook her head and shook off the feeling. Princess Freya, what are you doing here? Kalia asked her as if nothing happened. Oh, am I not allowed to come here? Or am I interrupting your intimate time? Princess Freya showed with questions. What are you saying? Kalia tried to dodge it, but her blushing face betrayed her. If you didn't do it, then why are you wearing clothes like this? Do you want to tease your student? Princess Freya looked at the clothing Kalia was wearing. From top to bottom, she never imagined that Kalia, who usually wore a cold face, an academy would wear clothing that would invite perverted gazes from men. Watch your mouth. We elf used to dress like this to get close to nature. And what I did with him had nothing to do with you. Kalia started to get annoyed with the harsh words of Princess Freya. No, of course not. It has something to do with me. As if being provoked by Kalia's words, Princess Freya shouted louder than before. What? Kalia was about to reply to her words, but Zeal's voice immediately stopped her. Enough. Zeal stopped them before their argument got heated. Both of them fell silent and neither dared to utter a single word. And what do you want by coming here, Princess Freya? You want to resume his training after taking care of the girl in front of him. What? I can come here if I don't have a purpose. Princess Freya puffed her cheeks. Her attitude towards Zeal is very different when she talked to Kalia. But Zeal just kept quiet and didn't respond. Instead of being disappointed, Princess Freya stuck her teeth out at him. Kalia was surprised to see Princess Freya's attitude, which changed drastically when she spoke to Zeal. Okay, I tell you, can you unseal my brother? Princess Freya asked him nervously. She was afraid that Zeal would be angry at her. What do you mean? Zeal pretended not to know what she was saying. No need to pretend. My father has brought a royal mage to check on my brother's condition, and he said my brother's power is sealed. The principal tried to force it open but couldn't. He said it can only be opened by the person who gave the seal, or someone stronger than him. And the birds in the academy who are stronger than the principal. I can only think of you. Miss Freya looked down while drawing a circle on the ground with her feet. Her current action was so adorable. She seemed to be wrong about something, still trying to justify what she said. What's wrong with my words? Princess Freya tilted her head in confusion at his words. If it's someone stronger than the principal, there are two in your class, Zeal told her honestly. Oh? What do you mean? She still doesn't understand what he is saying. Kalia just silently listened to him because she knew who he meant. In your class? There are two gods from the divine race. She'll be stronger than the principal. Zeal explained nonchalantly to him. What? Not only Princess Freya and Kalia were here that was also shocked. All she knew from Sylvie was that people were dangerous. She didn't know how great their strength was, and what race they came from. This is new information for her. But what shocked her the most was when Zeal mentioned the word divine race. Her face darkened. Are you sure about what you said? Sylvie manifested herself after hearing Zeal's words. From the look on his face, he looked very panicked. Of course, Zeal answered briefly. Oh, isn't this academy in danger, Kalia? Sylvie asked Kalia, who had been looking down. She knew what she was going through at that time. Sylvie just shook her head and didn't pursue an answer from her. Hey, why are you so gloomy, teacher? Princess Freya saw Kalia silly, fell silent and tried to tease her. This is none of your business. Kalia looked at her coldly. Subconsciously let out her pressure on her. I'm sorry. Princess Freya stepped back in fear. Now you have your situation, but are you sure you want to take it out on her? He didn't care about their argument, but this will spoil the mood of Kalia and practicing spiritism. Sorry. Kalia immediately came back to her senses, tried to regain her composure. Go back to the mansion first. I'm sure we can continue training if you are like that. You can't force her to train in such a state. Okay. Kalia walked back to her mansion, accompanied by Sylvie, who was flying above her head. Don't you want to go back to your dorm as well? He looked at Princess Freya, who was still standing in front of him, smiling. She quickly returned to her usual self after seeing Zeal defend her. So can you unseal my brother? I'm sure he has learned his lesson. She hoped that Zeal would agree to her request this time. I'd think about it. Come back first. I'll continue my training here. He returned to where he was sitting before and started to close his eyes to feel the pressure of their spirits. Particles around him. Okay, I'll wait for good news from you, Princess Freya said cheerfully. She jogged out the place back to her dormitory. Still is currently focusing on his spiritism practice. He could still sense the presence of spirit particles, even without the help of Kalia, but suddenly not as clear as to when he was helping by her. When he was condensing the spirit particles into a spirit circle, suddenly Sylvie manifests herself near him. What do you want from me? Zeal stopped his training and looked at Sylvie. Can I have your time? Sylvie floated around Zeal and finally stopped right in front of his face. Yes, Zeal answered her briefly. I know that Kalia is an elf royal family. She had to confirm it before proceeding with her story. I know a little about it, answered honestly to Sylvie's question. Currently, the elf kingdom has isolated itself from the outside world. Do you know why? Sylvie looked sad as she said that. I do not know. Zil just shook his head. He wasn't interested in hearing the story, but since he came here to see him, it must be something important. Kali is the younger sister of the current Elf Queen. He once asked why the Elf royal family is in a human region, right? Answer is because she fled from that place. The current Elf Kingdom doesn't belong to the Elf, but the one who claims to be divine race. Sylvie cleared her throat and began to continue her story. While the previous Elf King and Queen were still alive, Elf Kingdom was open to the outside world, but one day, the people who claimed to be from the divine race came. They said that they were there to learn about the Elf lifestyle, but after their arrival, one by one, the residents of the Elf Kingdom disappeared without a trace. After the kingdom searched for it, they finally found a clue that they were kidnapped. And the people who kidnapped them were those people. They kidnapped Elf for their research. Elf warriors were immediately gathered to attack their hideouts, but they all didn't come back. Sylvie was silent for a while to see Zeal's expression. She was disappointed that he kept his poker face. One day, one of those people came to the castle and asked for the Elf's Queen cooperation in their research. They boldly asked one of the royal members to cooperate because the royal member was distant from the High Elves. And the person they asked for was Kalia. To be precise, Catalia is her real name. Sylvie's face darkened after remembering that. She was silent for a long time before finally continuing her story. They refused, and finally a fight ensued with the two of them. Unfortunately, they were too strong, so the Elf King and Queen surrendered and decided to sacrifice Kalia. But before that could happen, Kalia managed to escape and finally arrived in human territory. Since at that time the Elf Kingdom isolated itself, and the news was heard that her sister was currently queen. The king and queen may have been subject of research. For some reason, it seemed that they need a lot of samples for the research, and are still hunting for Kalia to this day. And Kalia is determined to return to her kingdom to reclaim her homeland. Sylvie then flew close to Zeal's face. So can you help Kalia? Not to take over the Elf Kingdom back, but only to protect her while she is here. Even though she has lived a very long time, she is a stubborn and reckless type of person. I beg of you. Sylvie then kneeled in front of Zeal. He was silent for a while, then spoke to Sylvie. Alright, as long as she is here and teaches me spiritism, it will be my responsibility. Besides that, she also has to listen to my words. Did you hear that? Catilia? Zeal narrowed his eyes, looking at Sylvie's eyes.